Difficulty is ingrained in video games and video game culture. Ask a group of people what makes a game, and at least one person will say the challenge.
If it's not a battle, where's the fun?
Difficulty has many different categories, and we're going to be going through all of that today, so buckle up and get ready to talk about games being hard. I'm not copying Dunkey, shut up. There are many modern titles that treat difficulty in a way which makes the games both fun and challenging. Examples of this would be Celeste, Uncharted, and Destiny. Now I know, Destiny isn't exactly the most popular choice to be put there, but let me explain. When Destiny starts out, it's holding your hand the entire time. You can pretty much melee your way through all the levels. But once you get to the later parts of the story, and the DLC, it gets to where you need to perfectly train thralls, annihilate Fallen, and not miss a single sniper bullet on Cabal. It gets so difficult that the more difficult raids become pretty much impossible without a full level 40 fire team. I remember when I was 11, I was attempting to do Crota's End solo, because I didn't have any friends, and as soon as I got in, I was immediately slashed to a pulp by thralls. That's not good difficulty, that's artificial difficulty. But besides the raids, it's pretty good. Another example would be Celeste. The platforming is difficult and the levels are challenging, but the fact that you start at the beginning of each screen really alleviates the frustration of death. Whenever you die, instead of throwing your controller across the room and cursing Madeline's name to the heavens, you instead think, hey, now I know something I didn't, and I'm closer to beating this level. It starts off with a very simple level. Sure, you'll die a bit, but it's not too challenging. Then, you get slapped in the face and thrown into the next level. It gets intense. Next up is Cuphead, which is kind of a special case. I do not like Cuphead's difficulty. It's good, don't get me wrong, but there are some clear flaws. Like the goddamn Jimmy the Great fight. I found myself constantly retrying whenever his first attack was anything but the swords. Oh, he's launching the jewels? Cool, I'm dead. The footage you're seeing right now is of my editor beating the boss. He is clearly superior to me in every way. Who put this in the script? But yeah, I love Cuphead, so take my opinion with a grain of salt. Abuse of difficulty was very prominent in the earlier days of gaming, in the NES era. Games were shorter because cartridges had less space, so devs had the genius idea of just making the games harder, so they'll take more time to beat. The absolute worst example of this practice I could find was Ghosts and Goblins, so let's talk about that. First of all, you only have 2 health points. You get hit once, you lose your armor. Get hit once more, you're dead. The opportunities to refill your armor in every level are very limited, so if you get hit, you should probably just give up and load. Yeah, I said it. Load! I couldn't even get close to the second level without save states. Sure, that might be just because I'm bad at platformers, but whatever. Next up, the controls. They are awful. You have standard horizontal movement, jumping, and a button to fire your projectile. The movement feels slow and jumping feels sluggish, but the main problem I had was with the projectile. You have no way of firing upward, which is a big problem that I'll talk about soon. The enemies. The zombies are pretty easy, but what gets you are the red reamers. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce them. These little bastards will swoop down on you, firing projectiles, and are extremely hard to hit. This is where your projectile comes in. Since you can't fire anywhere but horizontally, the red reamers are very difficult to kill. When they swoop down, you'll have a very short window to fire your projectile at them, though this is sometimes very challenging, because guess what? He also fires a projectile while swooping. It's an absolute nightmare. The level layout. This game is insanely short. The game has a total of 7 Mega Man-sized levels, and they're pretty decently laid out. Slight problem with the layout, though. To get to the true ending for the game, you need to do all the levels over again. Once you defeat the boss in level 7, he sends you back to level 1, where you do the whole thing all over again. This time the difficulty is slightly amped with projectiles traveling faster and the red reamers firing 2 projectiles during a swoop instead of 1. It's insane. All of this combined with some NES cheese, weird hitboxes, glitches, etc. This makes the game a mess to play through. This kind of difficulty isn't fun, it's bullcrap. Difficulty in competitive games is something that's very hard to classify. Sure, developers can make those games easier in a gameplay sense, but in the end, it's human versus human, and only one of those people is going to come out on top. For example, take one-on-one competitive games like Smash or Street Fighter. Capcom could make Street Fighter easier with easier inputs or something, but in the end, it doesn't matter how easy the inputs are, because one player is going to be better than the other, and that player is going to win. You have to practice and study the games to get to a point where you can consistently dominate. I think Core Gaming summarized this pretty well in some of his videos, so if you want a more in-depth look at this topic, then check him out. TLDR, this type of difficulty is not perfect, but it also can't really be fixed either. Improved, but not fixed. Games need difficulty to be fun. A game without difficulty really has no point, and doesn't give any satisfaction from beating it. I do understand that difficulty isn't black and white, and this is a very difficult thing to perfect, so in the end, just play the games that you enjoy. But seriously, screw Cuphead!